Contestant number 4, Bob Hayes. I like to make things. I like to make things, Bob Hayes.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. I guess sometimes making things can be a pretty big deal. Mr. Toastmaster, members and guests, I ask you, can you remember the last time you made something? Do you remember what it felt like when you finished making something? I was very lucky. Growing up, my family made all kinds of things. We made lots of things. Perhaps the most interesting thing we ever made was an electronic organ. We bought a theater organ kit from the Schober Organ Company. 265 key keyboards, 25 bass pedals. It arrived in 10 boxes and a pallet of rough-cut wood. We had to solder 10,000 resistors, 4,000 capacitors, and 2,000 transistors to assemble this. It took 3 months. This was a big deal. As we were finishing the project, we had to finish the walnut cabinet. We used an oil finish and thinner. And we'd take the rags and toss them in a bucket and leave them in the basement when we were done applying finish to the cabinet for the day, because you could only apply finish a couple times a day, a couple of coats a day. One day, we started to smell something. We weren't quite sure what it was. We looked around, and then we realized it smelled like something was burning. So we went in the basement. And sure enough, the bucket of rags were smoldering. My father grabbed the bucket, ran it outside, put it down on our patio, jumped back, and it burst into flames. And I do mean burst into flames, 8 feet tall. He's looking at it with his hands on his hips, and he's just smiling, looking at it. And my mom rushes out of the house and yells at him, "You're trying to burn my house down! What are you doing? Don't ever leave that bucket in the basement again." And all he's doing is standing with his hands on his hips, with a big smile on his face. He looks down at me. I was 10 years old at the time. He looks down at me and he says, "That proves spontaneous combustion." As we all do, I got older. I went to college. I didn't make things as much. I had studies. I started a career. I made things even less because I followed my energy into my career. And I worked hard. In the spring of 2007, I was laid off. I had a good severance package. And I knew I wouldn't be able to take a vacation when I took a new job. So my wife and I decided to go to Paris for 5 days and rearrange our minds. We did a day trip to Chartres to see the cathedral. I went in the gift shop, and they had a paper model of the cathedral. So I bought it. I took it home. I was a little surprised when I opened it and found that there were over 300 pieces to cut out, to fold, and to glue, to create a model of the cathedral. But I thought, fine, this is a good exercise. And I started assembling them. So, between visiting a consultant to help me prepare my resume, to prepare my cover letters, to practice interviewing, between phone calls to do pre-screens, phone interviews, half of them ending up with, "Well, it'd be really great if you had this qualification," or, "Oh, you know what, you just really are way overqualified for this job. We shouldn't waste our time any further." I made a cathedral. It took a little over a month. It was 2 feet long, a foot wide, and a foot and a half tall. But I finished it. And it was fun. And it gave me a sense of accomplishment and a sense of value at a time when I really didn't have a lot of that. Cobblers. believe that if we truly understood the beginning of the Torah, the first book of Genesis, we understood it deeply, the numerology, the real meaning of the Hebrew language, we would be able to create all of this just like God did. Making things is powerful. Making things instills self-confidence. Making things gives you a sense of accomplishment. And perhaps most of all, making things may bring you towards the divine. So, I ask you, tonight, tomorrow, next weekend, make something.